Michael Hinojosa, Superintendent in Dallas, again and still. And I'm here back to testify in front of you, and I'm representing the Urban Council and the Dallas ISD. I'll pick it up with the appreciation. I do appreciate this task force that was bicameral, bipartisan, and had educators on it. A lot of people said they're never going to do anything. They meet, sometimes they don't even write a report because this is too hard. And then they say, well, if they write a report, they don't make any recommendations. And then if they say that, well, if they come up with recommendations, oh, they don't put any money behind it. So all of those myths have already been debunked to get to this point. And this committee is very well represented by 3 members of this committee that participated, or more, that participated significantly in that. So I do appreciate where you've been and what you've done to get us to this day. Also, a lot of people are underestimating something. Higher ed has a goal, 60 by 30. This commission is recommending 2 60 by 30 goals, one for 3rd grade reading and one for college and career readiness. But here's the irony. If you are economically advantaged, you'll be at 60 by 20 because you're almost there. But if you're economically disadvantaged, it'll take another decade. And these resources will help you get there if they're taken into consideration. If students can learn to read, and they can read to learn. If they don't, they get behind, and the cycle that Dr. De La Torre aptly described continues to happen. Second thing, I want to appreciate this committee's looking at the complexity of current year values. Now, I don't know that the other chamber has come to that conclusion, but thank you for coming to that conclusion. That creates one level of complexity. And I also want to make sure that we thank you for at least taking that into consideration. So what do we recommend and what do we commend? Similarly with the previous testimony, increasing the comp ed weight, that has a huge impact regarding exactly what you just said, Chairman Dutton. It's not the kids' fault, but it's the funding system fault that does not recognize that. Later, you're going to hear from San Antonio ISD, who has replicated the intensity of poverty. And we have that in Dallas, and we've figured out. And by the way, the state of Texas is 60% economically disadvantaged. But when you get into local communities in the 5th Ward, when you get in West Dallas, when you get in South Dallas, when you get in certain parts of San Antonio, and you get in certain parts of rural America where there has never been an opportunity to get out of that. When you recognize that and you put weights in the comp ed weight, there has a great potential. Now, of course, with every new index, we're going to figure out the laws of unintended consequences. PreK, thank you for doing that. There's a lot of mystery about that, but we've been doing this for 5 years. Now that we've been doing it for 5 years, we have significant data that kids that go to Dallas ISD pre-K outperform kids that go to no pre-K significantly. Our 3rd grade meets level is higher than the state. Our economically disadvantaged students are outperforming the state's economic disadvantage at the meets level at 3rd grade. Why? We've been investing $6 million new every year in pre-K for the last several years. And now we're getting the results. It's taken a long time. And by the way, nobody except great teachers in Dallas got a raise for 3 years because we funded our strategic initiatives first. And then now that we've made it, our community has supported us. And no one is for higher property taxes, but a super majority of our community voted for a 13-cent tax increase to help these kids get out of the cycle of poverty. The next one, dual language allotment. There's research. When I first went to Dallas in 2006, we had 1,300 classrooms that were not being served. Bilingual students were not being served. We had to blow up the system. We had to go to Puerto Rico, to Mexico, to Spain to get teachers. And we implemented a dual language program, biliteracy, where kids are literate in 2 languages, English and Spanish, and it can be not just for Latino kids. This can be for white kids, for African American kids, for second and third generation Latinos who don't speak Spanish, who can become biliterate. The research by Collier and Thomas is overwhelming. It's taken Dallas 15 years to get here. But now, with the dual language program, our students are outperforming the state. And in fact, I'm embarrassed to say that our English learners are outperforming some of our other student groups in Dallas. because we need to do better with some of our other student groups that are not performing as well. But this works, and you've recognized that. Dyslexia, that's a big issue. There's not enough money for everybody, but it certainly, we do appreciate the money that's being set aside to do that. Third grade reading allotment. And where are you putting it? In English learners and economically disadvantaged. And if you do that along with your comp ed weight, now 60 by 30 is a reality and not just a dream. A vision is a dream with a deadline, and if you put resources behind it, you've got a fighting chance to get there. Now, one of the other recommendations that we could live with over time is what's already been talked about. Current year values would cripple Dallas. The cost of education index would cripple a lot of places, but a lot of that depends on what you replace it with. Yes, I've been a superintendent in Texas since 1994. I had to take a little break to Georgia to get my rest, and I came back. But we've had the same CEI the whole time I was gone, since 1994. And so I've known nothing else. I think the state, I think Austin, I think Dallas, I think the Valley, everybody looks different than the early 1990s when this was there. I was here when we did the high school allotment. I cheered for it. I was here when we did all these other allotments, but we added them on. So it may be time to do it. But the key is going to be in what is done with the basic allotment in the end. If you just slightly increase the basic allotment, you're just rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. If you significantly, and there is a number, I'm not going to tell you what that number is, but if there is a number that if you increase it to that amount, high tides raise all boats. Houston, Dallas, maybe Austin come out of 41. Everybody at this table benefits. But that's the key. And of course, I know we're early in the process. We don't have a bill yet. But this is going to be a huge key in addition to the other things you've come out with. Property tax relief. It is important. But 2/3 of our voters voted a tax increase because they saw what they were getting was something that they wanted for their community. So if it's the right stuff, and of course, property tax relief, you always got equity, and you always got adequacy, and how much does that money raise? And I've been a Chapter 41 superintendent. I've been a Chapter 42 superintendent. So you're not going to hear me whine about how much money we're not entitled to that we have to give away, because I've been on both sides of that table. This is complex stuff. But if you got caps, I've been told, well, the caps won't apply to you because we'll make you whole. Okay, what does that mean? Well, we'll see. Trust us. Let's look at the bill. Okay, I'm going to be quiet and wait and not opine further on property tax relief. So Dallas?
You promise?
For a little while. And for Dallas, there is a slide on Dallas. Educator excellence. I was a skeptic. It took me a long time to believe into it. And yes, I was with the whole issue that our esteemed superintendent, Dr. Williams, from my neighbor, had came up about collaborative versus competitive. And we have our own professional learning communities. But what's very powerful is when we got outstanding teachers helping teachers who are not quite as outstanding. And we've been through all the work. We lost 60% of our workforce. But now we're keeping 90 to 95% of our best teachers. And the whole district is benefiting. It was very difficult to do. I've met with the commissioner for 2 hours to tell him this is what was done to make this thing work over time. It can work. It's not for everybody. And in fact, very few people have pulled it off. But it is possible. When you can get your best teachers to stay in the classroom and make significant dollars, it is possible. So that's something that we would certainly be in favor of. Third grade outcome funding, reading outcomes, it's intriguing. If you're not afraid of accountability, if you believe in your kids and you believe in your teachers, you'll be willing to try something like this. In fact, as I was hearing other superintendents testify, what would I do with that summer school money? I would make sure I took all of our students who are not ready to read at third grade and put them with our best teachers for the month of July so they would have a best chance to be successful in their third grade year. I could pay those best teachers a lot of money to make sure that we got to more outcomes. So if we got the outcomes, then we could put that money back into our system. I don't know if it's perfect. It is. There's a lot of pushback about this, but I'm willing to consider it because there may be another opportunity to help our local community. And of course, the transportation allotment, Chapter 41 districts not eligible for transportation, is something that would certainly benefit us. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, Mr. Chairman. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Well, I appreciate everything that you've done. We had you up in front of us a lot. I know that you've improved. You had 40 IR campuses or 43 IR campuses, 3 or 4 years ago, and you have 3 now?
4.
I mean, that's just incredible. And you know what? You're right. There are people that are pushing back on the outcomes. He's one of them sitting right there. But it's okay. And the way I think we're going to try and structure this is that we're going to try and make it, if you want to achieve and go get the money and provide the resources and be successful. I mean, the smart superintendent, I'm not saying you're not. But I'm saying I think that superintendents in generalities would say, we want to be collaborative about that. So we need to talk about it more, I think, is the most important thing, and figure out what metrics we're going to use. But, if there's $700 million that's for the taking, I think people are going to try and figure out a way to get it, right?
Yes, sir.
I would think.